ثامر الغضبان، نائب رئيس مجلس وزراء ممثل دولة رئيس مجلس وزراء، معالي السيد محمد باركندو الأمين العام لمنظمة دول
Mr. Mohammed Makindo, who is the representative of OPEC, all the dignitaries and representatives of your respected sides, our greetings. Today, we gather in Baghdad in the fifth round for the Iraqi Energy Forum. And this reminds me, this attendance and this group of representatives that are a light from all the world, that they are the most important players in the oil or petroleum industry. On the 12th of December 2012, it was the first Iraqi Energy Forum convened, and it had the first forum that was considered as international level, and it was the first that was convened in Baghdad after every forums were made and conducted outside Iraq. Today we are back after the historic victory of Iraq against terrorism on behalf of humanity, through a bloodshed, a heart that where Iraq has paid a fair sum of the blood of his innocent sons and daughters, and they were supported especially by the coalition and the international alliance and the regional countries. After this victory on terrorism, Iraq is now on the threshold of a new stage, and this big giant is rising again with its natural resources and its human resources to attract once again the worldwide attention, especially in the energy sector. Our forum today is not only for development and prosperity in Iraq, but it is for development and prosperity in the Middle East, and we wanted to reach the regional space and also other important places in the world. This forum is entering a very important and critical stage in the terms of petrol and energy industry. And one of the most imminent challenges that we are facing, especially here in OPEC and all the world, are the unpredictables in the petroleum industry. This is why we underline the importance of this forum, because we need to discuss with each other how to face those challenges and those insecurities that we are facing day after day on worldwide, especially that all the world is suffering from the technology development. At this stage, the technology and robots are being a very important part of services and industry itself. And this is contradicting with the efficient young people that have the expertise that can actually be main players in this industry. Thus, we need to discuss how to employ and provide the jobs in this sector to go through the disappointment and eliminate the disappointment and joblessness that the Iraqi youth are suffering from in spite of being qualified for those kind of jobs. And this changes, the technology changes, namely, and also the modern industry in the petroleum sector. We need to really face this fact and how to make those technology facts and expertise be part of the Iraqi everyday function and also in the region. We cannot go on and continue without going into a very important ring, which is empowering women economically and to be a partner in this industry. And we think we are very delayed. We are really delayed in this aspect, and it should be attended very urgently. This fifth forum is expected to discuss all those aspects or all those points that we have said now. And we really need to get out as a very practical output. We need recommendations that the Iraq should be incited with for the next stage of for Iraq, for the region, and worldwide. I thank you again for your attendance, and we thank all the sponsors, all the partners, and all of those that have been with us since the very since round. And thank you for all those who have um, come recently and joined us recently. And we know that we could never have succeeded in any of this unless your precious support. And I hope that we will have practical results, beneficial results. شكرا جزيلا السيد الجنابي لي.
Invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Thamer Ghadban, Deputy Prime Minister for Energy Affairs, to deliver his speech.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحضور الكرام،
Attendees,
ضيوفنا الأعزاء،
our dear guests, I am very proud and to greet you here today as you are attending the fifth round of this forum. I would like also to acknowledge the sponsors and all those who have made this event possible, that is, and especially after the previous statement that this is the first time that it is convened in Iraq, in Baghdad, and this is a big welcome to this step. We have there has been urgent commitments that prevented His Excellency Prime Minister from attending this forum, Prime Minister Adil Abdel Mahdi, and therefore I would like to address a number of core issues, and that are, of course, his interest being the Prime Minister and supervising those core issues. And also on his behalf, being his deputy and also the Minister of Oil, we are committed to a sound policy towards the petroleum sector. The petroleum sector or the energy sector is a main issue and a main concern for the Republic of Iraq, especially in the committee of the Parliament Committee on Energy. And of course, it is the motor that is winding all those the Iraqi economy, and Iraq is considered the main exporter, and it is the main revenue. It is the main revenue for the Iraqi finance. More than 90% of the Iraqi revenues are oil-based, and it is centered or allocated in the annual budget. It is very important based on this calculation, and therefore we are very keen that this sector would always be active and would always be continuing in its progress, in its improvement, and would always be restricted to sound policies. Those policies aim to keep Iraq as a main producer for oil, petroleum, butane, and that the Iraqi government would provide the demands of the energy demands for the Iraqi people. And it would also ensure the structure, the sustainable structure and function of this sector. Our policy is very keen to make a series of amendments, restructuring, that all the federal ministries should be controlling ministries, and that they can make their own policies, they can make their own legislations, and also the regulations that are linked to those laws, so that the companies that are related to the petroleum industry can have a trade action arena to work in. The sector would witness a number of changes and amendments. These mechanisms can be in the production part, or maybe in the trade or economic part. And maybe, and of course, we aim that it can be a sustainable sector that can always address the demands of the coming years. We are always observing the changes that are happening on nationwide or even worldwide levels, and we are always observing the new possibilities for energy, the renewable energy and the other alternative energy, and also their role in the coming decades. At the same time, we are really keen and we are concerned about preserving the environment, and also we watch closely the climate changes. The Iraqi government, and through the Ministry of Oil, is keen to make mega projects, to invest the gas and butane that hasn't been invested properly. We would like to welcome all the investors and businessmen, and we would like also to point out that the Iraqi government is also keen to develop and also amend the working environment, and that the procedures would be simplified and they would be more applicable to the investors, being Iraqi, being regional from our Arab countries, or other places from the world, because we know that the procedures are lengthy. They are inherited from a number of regulations and procedures that were from the past era, and they are of course outdated and need to be reconstructed. The Iraqi government also works on the anti-corruption file, and that all the procedures should be inside Iraq, among the businessmen, the public sector, and the investors, from all the activities, the mechanisms, all of them should be clean from corruption, and that all have the same opportunities to access what Iraq has to offer. I would like to greet all those who are attending here today and all those who are looking forward to the results and the recommendations of this forum. Thank you very much.
Much, Mr. Thamil Ghadban, for your speech. Now we will proceed by inviting our guest of honor, Mr. Mohammed Sanusi Bakindo, Secretary General of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, to deliver his speech.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. His Excellency, our esteemed Minister of Energy and Deputy Prime Minister of the State of Iraq, Samir Abbas Al-Gaddam, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, It is once again a great honor for us, and indeed a privilege, to return to Iraq, the land of the prophets, the land of Mesopotamia, to participate at this 5th Iraq Energy Forum and share the floor with these outstanding leaders gathered here today. I would like at the outset to acknowledge and commend the government of Iraq, particularly the ministries of oil, electricity, and water resources, the Iraq Energy Institute, ably guided by Professor Ali Saik, and all members of the organizing team for arranging such an outstanding forum. I was just asking my friend Lue whether this forum is what number, and he confirmed to me is the 5th in the series. And considering this is just the 5th edition and it has already become a very permanent feature on our energy calendar, the founders, including Lue, should be congratulated for this foresight. The Iraq Energy Forum has evolved into one of the most reputable events on our calendar. And for us in OPEC, I told my colleagues, it's a must attend every year. And thank you, Lue. I consider myself extremely fortunate to have been a guest in this great nation on several occasions in the past during my professional career. It is always an honor to be here, as Iraq truly is the cradle of civilization. Each time I came to Iraq in the last 33 years, I leave Iraq with an additional diploma through learning from colleagues, from friends, from scholars, and visiting historical sites. And this time around, it's not going to be an exception. This is a nation of firsts, the place where the concept of the wheel first took health, where the first agriculture appeared, where the first system of irrigation was developed, an area where the oldest surviving form of writing hails from, where the first cities were settled. You could go on and on and on, and Dr. Samir Al-Gadban was just further educating me on the early civilizations. And he has whetted my appetite to return specifically to earn additional diplomas. So thank you very much, Samir. The enormity of these innovations are mind-boggling in that they fundamentally shaped our subsequent human existence, but are also the testimony to the enduring genius of the people who lived here, the people of Iraq. For millennia, Iraq has been home to civilizations that have left their mark on the region and the world. The Sumerians, the Akkadians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, to name but just a few. Given this litany of extraordinary firsts and the fact that Iraq is the source and origin of civilization, you can understand why it is with tremendous pride that OPEC can say that our organization was also born in this prestigious nation. And today, by coincidence or design, is our birthday. We are 59 years old today. We deserve an applause for this special birthday in Baghdad. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, Between the 10th and 14th of September 1960, representatives from 5 courageous oil-producing countries descended on Al-Shab Hall in Babul al-Mu'athan district in downtown Baghdad. Fuad Rouhani of Iran, Dr. Talat al-Shaibani of Iraq, Ahmed Said Umar of Kuwait, Abdullah al-Tariki of Saudi Arabia, and Dr. Juan Pablo Pere Alfonso of Venezuela. As a result of the actions of these 5 founding fathers, visionary leaders of our member countries, OPEC was born. Much has been written about the founding of OPEC and its significance, but in the interest of time this morning, I would highlight 2 particular legacies which are particularly relevant in our present times. With the benefit of hindsight, we might have the impressions that the foundation of OPEC was inevitable. However, that was not the case. The organization's founder members each arrived in Baghdad with different objectives, expectations, and priorities. Yet, these visionary leaders, these founders recognize that common interests outweigh any differences they may have had, that working together will always yield greater results than going alone, and unity is a sense of strength. These ideals are as relevant in 2019 as they were in 1960. They are truly timeless and have served as a stable linchpin throughout our checkered history. The founding of our organization is an outcome of competition, cooperation, dialogue, and compromise. And this has been clearly apparent in the every successes we have enjoyed in the subsequent 59 years. Secondly, Your Excellencies, OPEC was founded in strict accordance with the core principles of the United Nations Charter. The treaty establishing OPEC was later registered at the UN Secretariat in New York on the 6th of November 1961. Our organization has always been proud of its close association with the United Nations and our role in multilateral system. Aside from being the site of our organization's birth, it is no coincidence that Iraq is a founder member. This spirit of commitment to OPEC's pursuit of sustainable oil market stability has been exemplified by the current leadership of Iraq. Iraq has strongly supported the declaration of cooperation process. This unique initiative has seen OPEC join hands with 10 other non-OPEC countries to work together in bringing more balance to the market. Not only did Iraq play an important role in the brokering consensus among the 24 partners, it has also backed words with action. This year, Iraq, ably represented by His Excellency Thamir Al-Ghadban, became a member of the Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee of our organization and has made a critical contribution to the vital monitoring mission of this body. We just returning from Abu Dhabi together with Thamir Al-Ghadban, where we attended the 16th session of the Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee. And since we started this process in January 2017, we all agreed in Abu Dhabi that this session was the most productive, it was the most successful, that has galvanized us to even greater commitment to our individual obligations. And we dedicated this 16th session to Thamir Al-Ghadban. He not only provided leadership, his wise counsel, his reiteration of the commitment of Iraq to the supply adjustments lifted the spirit of all those who attended this meeting. And why? Because Iraq is a very big country, it's a country with huge resources, and within OPEC, and indeed the OPEC family, there is no decision that can be taken effectively and implemented effectively and efficiently without the participation of Iraq. And hence, the attention of all delegates and all ministers, and indeed the media in Abu Dhabi, was on Thamir Al-Ghadban, and he discharged his responsibilities with the expectations of all, as every leader would be expected to do. Thank you very much. Shukran jazilan, Thamir. We are delighted that Iraq has continued to demonstrate its commitment through its steadfast support of our newborn Charter of Cooperation, which was endorsed at the 6th OPEC and non-OPEC ministerial meeting held on the 2nd of July this year in Vienna. This once-in-a-lifetime document provides an institutional framework for the cooperation between OPEC and our non-OPEC partners, facilitating dialogue among stakeholders in the interest of producers, consumers, and the global economy. I am delighted yet unsurprised to say that Iraq was the first country to ratify this charter. Can we give Iraq another applause, please? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, returning to the city which birthed OPEC inevitably leads one to reflect on the history of the oil industry and the factors which connect our past with the present. Re-examining the annals of history, one cannot help but be struck by the perseverance of a belief held by some prominent voices, namely the notion of an impending collapse of oil. These ideas have sometimes been collectively categorized as the concept of peak oil and denote the notion that oil supply was on the verge of a long-term decline. Most famously, it was outlined by King Herbert in 1956 and Matthew Simmons as recently as 2005, but in truth, when one scores sources from even the 19th century, from the moment oil was first drilled for commercial purposes in Baku, Azerbaijan in 1846, people were forecasting that as oil was a finite resource, production would eventually stop. The idea was particularly in vogue in the middle of the 2000s when countless articles, books, studies, media analysis described an impending oil supply shortage. Significantly, predictions of the end of oil have impacted the financial markets, affected investment decisions, and caused consternation for policymakers. I believe some who are here with us today. This reinforces the point that sentiment, speculation, and rumors have played important roles as market drivers, often causing a disconnect between oil prices and market fundamentals. Yet, primarily due to technological innovation, the idea of peak supply has not materialized. As Dan Yergin phrased it, and he said, the general history of the oil and gas industry is of technological advance. New technologies are developed to identify new resources and to produce more from existing fields. And this we have seen over the last 60 years. A particularly fascinating development in this current decade is that the concept of what peak oil means has now shifted. At the beginning of the 2010s, reports of peak supply were almost omnipresent. However, we are about to conclude the decade when this purported concern or challenge has shifted to concerns about peak demand. Pick up a newspaper today or read an article online, and one of the most common refrains is that demand for oil is about to plateau or decline. Such thinking has been heavily influenced by advocates of renewable energy and the electric car lobby, who champion the idea that hydrocarbons are on the verge of being replaced by renewable forms of energy. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while I will not diminish some of the important arguments and valid points which both proponents of peak supply and peak demand made, one cannot help but recognize common traits to both views. They both contain a degree of what Blake Clayton described as irrational anxiety. Peak demand fears do not necessarily reflect market fundamentals or the overwhelming majority of long-term focus of most reporting agencies. So to all stakeholders in our industry, particularly investment community and policymakers such as your good selves, I wish to make an appeal. Do not let your views or decisions on the oil industry be determined by the loudest voices, the overactions, or the excessively bullish or bearish. Instead, look at the facts. Focus always on the fundamentals. And when looking at the fundamentals in both the short and the long term, it is clear that the future of this industry is bright and the best is yet to come for our industry. In the long term, as OPEC's flagship publication, Our World Oil Outlook has shown, world oil demand is set to grow considerably in the future. Long-term oil demand is expected to rise to almost 112 million barrels a day by 2040. This will be primarily driven by developing countries. Their expanding middle class, high population growth rates, and strong economic potential. Looking at the road transportation sector and the idea that electric vehicles are about to replace conventional vehicles, it should be noted that according to our outlook, although the rate for new sales of electric vehicles is very high, the share in total stock in 2017 was just 0.3% and 1.3% of total vehicle sales globally. While the long-term share of electric vehicles in the total fleet is projected to expand and reach a level of 13% by 2040, conventional vehicles constitute the majority of growth of the total vehicle fleet. For example, the ICE vehicles are expected to maintain their dominant share of new commercial vehicles sales over the forecast period. Although their share declines from 96% in 2017 to 81% by 2040, this still constitutes an overwhelming majority. Furthermore, as technological innovation defied the peak oil prognosis, I believe it will play a pivotal role in assuaging the peak demand concerns. Many link the fate of future of demand with concern regarding environmental credentials of oil. Technological innovation, particularly energy efficiency improvements, fuel efficiency standards, and carbon capture and sequestration technologies offer promising avenues to reconciling the conflicting components of the energy trilemma. Unfortunately, energy poverty remains a scourge of our time. The total number of people with access to electricity is just below 1 billion people. 3 billion people still lack access to clean fuels for cooking, and energy transition should not forget these realities, and we should strive for a more inclusive world where every person has access to energy as a matter of right. With regard to market prospects in the immediate term, market fundamentals remain solid, as our analysis in Baghdad have confirmed. Challenges to global economic growth remain, particularly within the sphere of trade-related tensions. The Declaration of Cooperation Partners have repeatedly demonstrated through words and deeds their unwavering commitment to taking whatever action necessary in pursuit of sustainable oil market stability. The figures tell a compelling story. In August this year, conformity with our voluntary production adjustments was 136% and has averaged 121% per month since the Declaration of Cooperation was signed. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, next year in this great city, we will commemorate one of the most unlikely stories in world history. In the face of the resistance from some of the most powerful stakeholders on earth, a small group of developing nations came together to courageously assert their legitimate sovereignty over their natural resources. Who could have imagined that 59 years later, despite many momentous events in the interim, this group would expand and reach out the hand of friendship to other producers, 10 non-OPEC partners, under the umbrella of the now Charter of Cooperation. Committed to the principles of fairness, transparency, and equity, this group has evolved from a noble vision to a permanent transformative force for good, one that has had a profoundly positive impact on the global oil industry. At OPEC, we respect our origins and our history. For this reason, we are eternally grateful to the people of Iraq for everything they have done for our organization. I have told my friends, including Samir Al-Ghadban, that every OPEC Secretary General is a citizen of Iraq, and I am therefore proud to be one. We would therefore like to thank the government of this great country for their gracious invitation to commemorate the 60th anniversary of OPEC's founding next year here in Baghdad. This will allow all member countries to return to the organization's roots and undertake several important tasks. Finally, firstly, the 60th anniversary commemorative celebrations will allow us to take a holistic stock of the tumultuous journey our organization has been on and traveled down memory lane. From the moment of its conception, many did not think OPEC had a chance of survival. Yet over the last 6 decades, OPEC's relevance has only increased with each passing year. Throughout our history, we have faced our share of challenges, and we have learned many lessons along the road. We have survived 6 oil market cycles, on this incredible journey. Despite all the highs and lows, peaks and troughs, we have remained dedicated to unity, transparency, and equity. It is important that we come together here in Baghdad in Al-Shaab Hall to discuss and analyze these lessons learned. The 60th anniversary will also serve another critical purpose. Reflecting on our past, we will draw a roadmap for the next 60 years ahead, demonstrating our staying power in a fast-changing energy landscape. We will extrapolate how the principles which guided our founding fathers can be repurposed for the decades ahead. And may I also take this opportunity to announce to all delegates that His Excellency Thamir Al-Gadban, together with his colleague Dr. Loué, have just agreed to organize the 6th forum of the Iraq Energy Forum next year, together with the commemoration of the 60th anniversary of OPEC, so that together both the Institute, the Ministry of Energy, and OPEC would work together and organize a befitting diamond anniversary. We thank you very much, Your Excellencies, for this kind gesture. There can be no doubt in looking at the way ahead, Iraq will continue to be critical in all our endeavors. We will once again look to this great nation to summon the wisdom, inspired leadership, courage, and fortitude which have made Iraq an integral, invaluable, and pivotal member of our OPEC family to guide us on the way ahead. Allow me to once again thank our gracious Iraqi host and wish us all a very successful conference. Shukran jazilan.
Lots of appreciations to His Excellency Mohammed Bakanto, Secretary General of OPEC. In the spirit of OPEC and its founding in the city of Baghdad, we are playing a video material, a documentary about the foundation of OPEC in Baghdad.
Iraq's unique role in OPEC's founding and successes. The cradle of civilization, the home to ingenious people for millennia. Iraq is all these things and more, but it is also the birthplace of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, which was founded in the Al-Shahab Hall in the Bab al-Mu'atham district in Baghdad exactly 59 years ago today, on the 14th of September 1960. The Iraq Energy Forum is taking place on OPEC's 59th birthday. As a founder member of the organization, Iraq was represented at the Baghdad conference by His Excellency Dr. Talad al-Shaibani. Iraq has continued to play an active role in furthering the organization's aims and promoting sustainable oil market stability. OPEC has been greatly enriched by the dedication and contribution of a succession of talented Iraqi public servants, including His Excellency Dr. Ibrahim Bahar Aloum, Minister of Oil from September 2003 to June 2004, and from May 2005 to January 2006. His Excellency Famir Abbas Al Radban, Minister of Oil from June 2004 to May 2005. His Excellency Dr. Hussein Al Shahristani, Minister of Oil from January 2006 to January 2011. His Excellency Abdul Karim Loebi, Minister of Oil and Head of Delegation of Iraq from January 2011 to September 2014. He was also President of the conference in 2012. His Excellency Adil Abdul Mahdi, Minister of Oil of Iraq from September 2014 to May 2016, and is now the current Prime Minister of Iraq. His Excellency Jabbar Al-Loebi, Minister of Oil from August 2016 to November 2018. And once more, His Excellency Famir Abbas Al-Radban, who has returned to the position and since 2018 has served as Deputy Prime Minister for Energy Affairs and Minister of Oil. Iraq has been particularly supportive of OPEC's market stabilization efforts through the Declaration of Cooperation process, which has seen OPEC join hands with 10 non-OPEC oil-producing countries as they work together towards a balanced oil market. This commitment has risen to new heights in 2019 as Iraq has become a member of the Joint Ministerial Monitoring Committee. His Excellency Al Radban has made a valuable contribution to this distinguished body with insightful comments and thoughtful observations.
Yesterday and today meetings have been fruitful, culminating in the adoption of the Charter for cooperation between OPEC member countries and non-OPEC member countries. With the will and determination of all member countries, we arrived at consensus and we have agreed to go ahead. And in many cases, a number of OPEC countries and non-OPEC countries, their economy is oil dependent. And such type of cooperation, as I said earlier, will ensure a stable income plan for the year. And on this, in our case, like in Iraq, the livelihood of a nation depends on oil. And this charter would do differently, because I said it calls for cooperation between 24 producing countries with almost 50 or more than 50% of the world production. Okay, so this is the importance of this, cooperation, and this is the importance of the charter.
I never wavered for a moment that we will not have a successful conference and appropriate decisions. We had remained focused even during the depth of the downturn to restore balance to the global oil market. we have these 24 countries now and probably growing, and these countries have agreed to have a charter of cooperation that would institutionalize this partnership.
Prime Minister Abdel Mahdi and Deputy Prime Minister Al Radban have also played a significant role in the endorsement of the Charter of Cooperation at the 6th OPEC and non-OPEC ministerial meeting on the 2nd of July 2019. This represents a significant step in the further institutionalization of the successful DOC partnership. Indeed, Iraq was the first country to ratify the Charter of Cooperation through its national process. The OPEC Secretary General, His Excellency Mohammed Sanusi Barkindo, has been a regular visitor to Iraq during his tenure in office. In March 2018, on a mission to Iraq which included participation at the 4th Iraq Energy Forum, the SG met with Iraq's then President, His Excellency Fouad Massoum, and the Prime Minister, His Excellency Haider al-Abadi, and other senior representatives. In an emotional homecoming, the SG also visited the site of OPEC's founding, the Al-Shahab Hall. The importance and value of Iraq's contribution to OPEC's successes have never been more apparent than now. Consistently, Iraq has demonstrated its credentials as a constructive partner and forger of consensus. This has been particularly the case under the leadership of Prime Minister Abdel Mahdi and Deputy Prime Minister Al Radban. OPEC is proud to call Baghdad its birthplace and is extremely appreciative to Iraq and His Excellency Al Radban for the invitation to commemorate the 60th anniversary of its founding in Baghdad in September 2020. For, in looking to its roots, the organisation also sees a glorious future, one in which Iraq will play a pivotal role in the years and decades to come.
We would like to thank our partners at OPEC for providing this beautiful documentary about the history of OPEC and Iraq. Our next speaker is Joe Kaeser, President and CEO of Siemens. He will deliver a keynote speech on the company's efforts in Iraq.
Your Excellency Tamir Gadban, Deputy Prime Minister, Your Excellency Louay Al-Khatib, Minister of Electricity, Your Excellency Dr. Yamal Al-Aldidi, Minister of Water. Happy birthday to OPEC, 59 years. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, and I do see many friends among the audience here, good old friends here in Iraq, but also around the area. I do like the motto, economic cooperation. Economic cooperation for Middle East peace and prosperity. And ladies and gentlemen, economic cooperation is a very fundamental matter to keep peace and prosperity, because if people work together, If people talk to each other, this is much better than talking about each other. It's my fourth visit in less than 2 years here to Baghdad, to Iraq, and my company, who I'm representing today, has a much, much longer history here in your country. Siemens has built electrical infrastructure, bridges, power plants in Iraq since the 1930s. So are well established, and more than 50% of today's power generation or electricity generation are from Siemens. And we at Siemens, we are truly honored, and I really say that we are truly honored that the people of Iraq have placed their trust on us as a partner for rebuilding this great country between Euphrates and Tigris, as I have learned it at school when I was little. And today, I believe it's fair to say that Iraq deserves a stable and reliable power supply to develop its economy in a sustainable way, because everything starts with electrification, with infrastructure, moving people and goods, and then industrialization, innovation will come. You've probably heard about what we call the Siemens roadmap. A roadmap from Siemens for the Iraqi people. A roadmap for Iraq. We've been starting implementing the first stage of our plan. The pace of work is set by the government. We've been working together very well, and we are ready to go. We can accelerate the progress here. We can work together in a close way and bring matters also and progress to the Iraqi people. In the first stage, which is currently underway as we speak, we are improving existing assets. Today, we have already added more than 700 megawatts to the electrical power supply here in the country. It's a promising start, but it's only the beginning, a very small beginning of a very big thing for a very big country. At Musaib 3, for example, our target was to boost capacity by 250 megawatts. Well, the plant now produces actually more than 300 megawatts. That means 50 megawatts for free, which actually can be done. And we have many, many more plants. Our system in Rumaila, where we have been implementing a very, very easy technology. We call it upstream cooling. We could improve the efficiency of the current equipment by almost 20%. Almost 20% for basically an investment which is going to pay back within less than 1 year. Less than 1 year. And if we do all those power plants today in Iraq with that simple technology, we are able to give you more than 800 megawatt by the time we have next summer. So there is a lot we can do. We are very proud that we can do that. The second step of the energy roadmap in Iraq is more exciting, as you know, today, and I'm very, very grateful that I have the opportunity to do this here at the Energy Forum. Today we are going to sign an agreement to rebuild the gas and power plant at Baiji 1 and 2. We're going to deliver 1.6 gigawatts in a very, very short period of time. And it's important to us because that site is in the middle of the liberated areas. And that's also something I believe cannot be appreciated much enough by the industrial world, by Germany, by Europe, by all the countries in the world, that this country has freed up itself from terrorism, has stood up against the axis of evil, and now is back to rebuild the country. I have to say, this deserves the utmost respect. And Siemens is here to help you finish that task. Ladies and gentlemen, our partnership involves much more though, much more than just building power plants or help oil and gas being taken out of the ground and being transported in pipelines in an efficient way. No, ladies and gentlemen, we are also here to create employment. We are here to create training. We are here to create innovation. And we are going to leave every single dollar on profit we make in this country, we are going to reinvest in Iraq. We're not going to take any money away. Not a single dime. We continue to invest. We've hired already more than 100 Iraqis to train them that they can operate the power plants we built. We're going to add more than 1,000 jobs when we build the power plants, but we have already 20 sites in Iraq. And I'm pretty sure, by building the big projects, we can also attract small, medium enterprises to come along and foster innovation in the country. We've done a huge mega project in Egypt, 14,400 megawatts in 2 years, building the 3 biggest power plants ever built on Earth in one place. Now, obviously, Iraq is different than Egypt, but there is no reason. There is no reason that this country cannot do the same in a different way so that it suits the Iraqi people going forward. And in Egypt, we brought more than 80 small, medium enterprises alongside, and they are actually went there to stay. We also agreed that right off the bat, we are going to train 1,000 young Iraqis with a dual apprenticeship, which has been famous from the German education system. And finally, and I promised that when I was here for the first time, I promised to the Iraqi people, no matter whether we get any order or not, any order, we are going to help to rebuild the medical system in the liberated areas. So I'm very proud to announce that Siemens has been donating medical equipment, power equipment, for the Al Tawhid Center in Baiji. And in this Al Tawhid Center in Baiji, we are able, by the end of 2019 already, we are able to treat more than 10,000 patients, to help them to become good again and to treat them and give them medical treatment and medical assistance. We promised that, and we did it without any economic conditions, because we believe running a company is more than just making money for shareholders. Running a company means that you've got to do something good for society. And that's why we are here. We are here to stay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here to help this country prosper as it used to be when it was called the country between Euphrates and Tigris, the country where milk and honey is prospering. That's how I learned about you, your country, when I was young and when I went to school. Last year, we signed the roadmap agreement with Iraq. This year, we began implementing the roadmap agreement on site. Today, we continue to keep our promise by signing the Baiji power plant agreement and by installing the mobile hospital in the freed up, liberated area. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor that I can be here today. It's a great honor for my company that I can help this country to develop to where it belongs to a proud, a stable, and a prospering Iraq, to the greater benefit of its people and, of course, also the companies which bring innovation, jobs, and, of course, also continue to invest in the country. Thank you very much for having me here. I look forward, and I'd be proud to be a partner to help you build the country. Thank you very much.
Lots of appreciations to the keynote speakers for their kind speeches. We will proceed with our first plenary session on energy, regional economics, and geopolitics. Speakers will include Thamer Al-Ghadban, Deputy Prime Minister for Energy Affairs, His Excellency Mohammed Bakendo, Secretary General of OPEC, Mr. Joe Kaiser, President and CEO of Siemens, Hussein J. Nwayes, Chairman, AMA Power, and Mohammed Bnayan, Chairman of the Board for Aqua Power. The session will be moderated by Ziad Dawood, Middle East Chief Economist at Bloomberg. May all speakers come to the stage. Thank you.